Welcome to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. I'm Mercedes Schlapp, and joining me today is just one of the heroes, one of the people who has spoken out so strongly in support of the Gold Star families, especially the 13 servicemen and women who were tragically killed in Afghanistan, which was obviously ignored by not only President Joe Biden, but Vice President Kamala Harris. Christy Shamblin, mother-in-law of Marine Sergeant Nicole G. It is really an honor to have you join us, Christy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So we were having just a brief discussion before the show, and first of all, I want to get a sense about who Nicole was and how she met your son, because you are the mother-in-law, and just understanding that story of Nicole and your son. I would love to know a little bit about that.
Oh, thank you so much. Nicole Leanne G was a spectacular human being. She was a 100% in kind of person. My son and Nicole went to high school together,
Right.
but they didn't date in high school. I kind of joke that my son needed to step his game up a little bit, and he did. And then they dated and fell in love quickly thereafter, and got engaged on the Oregon coast, and were married quietly with Nicole's sister and a justice of the peace. And
Wow.
It was very sweet and beautiful. And Nicole, I would love to say, she was that kind of person that kind of elevated every single person she met.
Mm-hmm.
She saw in you the best version of you,
Mm-hmm.
and she made you believe it. And it was like being in sunshine.
So how long were they married?
5 years.
5 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How is your son doing? I mean, it's been the third anniversary of this horrific terrorist attack outside in the Abbey Gate attack in Afghanistan. This, of course, in the heels of the really debacle withdrawal of the troops because of Joe Biden's decision. I mean, how is your son doing?
He was a Marine at the time as well, in active duty, and he's now separated from the Marine Corps with a medical retirement. Mm-hmm. And he's using his VA benefits to go to school, but his life will never be the same. He's having to learn to make a new life, just like we all are, and it's a struggle.
So look, it's interesting because I know, some people don't want to be thrown into this political circus, right? And you, and especially you've been one of the most vocal, the most out there in talking about the failures of President Joe Biden, the failures of Vice President Kamala Harris when it came to Afghanistan. Why did you do it? Why are you stepping out in front and saying I need to be a voice right now?
I feel like it's like we teach our kids: if you see something, say something. And I've seen something. When I saw behind that curtain of our government and our bureaucracy, I was shocked. And then a year later, after being ignored and having to be very demanding and just to try to get answers,
right.
And being ignored, and then having former President Trump reach out to us and meeting him, mm-hmm. I was shocked. I didn't anticipate meeting somebody that had the empathy and relatability.
Right.
I really expected just to meet a arrogant, what you see portrayed in the
media, New Yorker.
Yes, which I have respect for as well. But when I met him and he genuinely cares,
right,
and wants a better America, and I was shocked, and I was like, well, if I was shocked, then I have to speak out. And ignoring our veterans, our troops dying overseas, and it's not just our 13. There were 3 more in Jordan after that. We have casualties often, and it's for our freedoms, and to ignore those casualties is not something we as Americans hold as a value, I don't believe.
Let's talk about that meeting with President Trump. Where were you when you met with him? And then also, what did he do? What questions did he ask? What was that contact like? exchange?
We initially met him. He reached out after when we as parents were given the opportunity to testify at a round table in Congress. We asked to meet with the White House and with President Biden and Vice President Harris to understand where they were coming from in saying that this evacuation was a success. We never heard back. And President Trump's team and President Trump heard that we had reached out and didn't get a response. And so he reached out and said, would you like to come meet with me? And we said, sure. Well, and first it's interesting because, you know, again, we didn't want to be put into this.
Right.
You know, so initially when he asked, we said, well, what are the parameters? And his response was, well, what do you need?
I know, that's
you know, we said no we said no press, you know, we don't want it announced, and he did everything we asked. And then when we got to Bedminster, he met with us privately. He spoke of our loved ones. He asked us, what do you need to know? What can I tell you? He didn't have all the answers we wanted, and he didn't have, you know, everything that we were asking, but he spoke to us in a respectful way and listened to every one of us. It was such a shocking change from what we've received really everywhere else in Washington from people in a position of power.
Why, I got to ask you this, why, because I'm curious, why do you think the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, why do they keep refusing, like, to meet with you all? Like, I don't get it. At this point, you know, she ends up putting out this statement, you know, on the anniversary day. They write down the names of the 13 casualties here, but then they've never spoken their names. They've never met with you all. When you ask yourself this question, like, why? What do you think it is? What do you think is the reason behind the fact they won't meet with you?
What I have had to come up with is that they truly believe that our servicemen and women are expendable and that they're not important. And that is why I have to speak out, because these young men and women are the lifeblood of our country. In uniform, these are the people we call. If you have a hurricane hit your city, you're going to call the National Guard. If you're robbed, you're going to call a policeman or a policewoman. We have to have respect for the fallen. And I truly believe that they just anticipated and expected deaths, and that they accepted it as just a given. And I just don't believe that's a way we should operate.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you bring in the family, you bring in the families because there has to be this sense of, we care for you. We want you to know that we're there for you. Look, this was a tragedy, or at least try to explain something. But instead, they themselves have made it into a political issue by trying to ignore this. I do want to play this clip from Dana Bash when she spoke with Kamala, where Kamala, let's take a listen, where she basically says she's the last person in the room when this Afghanistan decision happened. Take a listen.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
So Kamala bears the responsibility. She says she's the last person in the room. She approved and agreed with this withdrawal in Afghanistan. I mean, is she to blame?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can be the last person in the room and be proud of that and not show up to Dover Air Force Base. You need to be the first person in that room. If you're the last person in the decision-making room. And that is what we need as a commander-in-chief and a leader of our country. And it's very sad to see that.
Let me ask you this, Afghanistan, so you had this ceremony, the laying of the wreath on the anniversary of this attack, and in Afghanistan. You invite President Trump to come, and then all of a sudden, you're hearing Kamala Harris basically say, it's a political stunt. And you have the media basically covering it from, well, you know, one of the Trump people pushed one of the people in you know, that was part of the Arlington Cemetery staff. I mean, were you just shocked when you see all these headlines, and then you also see that Kamala Harris is saying this is a political stunt? I mean, what's your reaction to that?
complete shock. We didn't see, I was right there with every part of that event. We didn't see an altercation. You know, I have to believe that it was just an honest mistake. And, but the reality is, you know, we did invite Vice President Harris and President Biden to the same wreath laying ceremony. We still haven't heard back from that either. But President Trump has given our families the respect and attention that has healed some parts of our mourning.
Yeah.
And that's important. As a commander-in-chief, you have to have that quality to be able to heal the people that need it.
You know, and it makes me sad, Christy, because like, you know, I had the honor of working with him at the White House and then over at the campaign. And I just remember these conversations with him where he would, it was heartbreaking to him when he would have to go to Walter Reed and he'd be like, why? I mean, our men and women, they're getting maimed, they're getting killed. There's no need for these endless wars. And so he really understood that. And yet the media just so unfairly covers him, really trying to make him out like the devil. And you're just kind of like, no. Like the man is compassionate and the man really wants to, you know, be the support to these Gold Star families. I mean, when you're talking to friends, you know, colleagues or friends that are like, I mean, how can you like Donald Trump, you know, type of thing. What's your response?
I ask them if they've met him, because before I met him, I may have had, you know what I mean, the same kind of, not the same kind of questions, but
sure.
Until you've really met him, you don't, he does help the people who are looking for help. Yeah. And that's what we need as a commander-in-chief and as a president. And I feel like the current administration just looks to help, you know, other politicians and people in their own kind of crowd.
Yeah. What's your fear with Kamala Harris if she were to win to be commander-in-chief?
I fear that we will lose more troops. I fear that other countries will see our vulnerabilities continuing and they will attack. We'll have World War III. I truly fear that.
And I want to get your reaction. I know Matthew Foldy, who's been a real big advocate for you all, or he's a reporter. I value him so much. He wrote an exclusive piece in the Washington Reporter saying that Speaker Mike Johnson, he announced that a congressional gold medal ceremony will be held for the Gold Star families. I mean, that is such an honor, really. How do you feel about that?
Beyond blessed. My daughter-in-law was an awesome, spectacular human being, but really, I truly, again, believe it's all of our service members who deserve these things. Everybody who was on the ground that day, you know, is a hero, is spectacular. They need celebrated. We don't get to bring our loved ones back, but I really hope to encourage everybody to respect and love and encourage those who did come back.
So as you know, we pray for the 13 men and women and those who have died. When you think about Nicole and you reflect back, what is moving forward? What is your promise to her? What is your message that you want to carry with you to share with others about Nicole and about this country?
She was a positive mental attitude, a believer in a positive mental attitude, and an encourager. And I would encourage everybody to just be the best person you can, choose kindness, and believe in the better version of yourself and of our country.
Yeah. Well, Christy Shamblin, thank you so much for joining me. We honor you. We honor your families. We honor those who have lost their lives here at CPAC, who have defended our country. And we will continue to be fighting for freedom and praying to God for a President Trump victory in November. So God bless, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you all for watching CPAC Now, America UnCanceled. Remember, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcast, and stay connected with us at cpac.org. God bless, and thank you all.